add a little bit to that, one of the things that I think is difficult for investors, and you're probably going to cut me off on this too, but when it comes to hardware in the spaces that the three of us are in right now, it's something that traditionally large companies have always done and done very well. They build products, if they're a hardware company. So they've built hardware, they've made a lot of money, they have a manufacturing, the supply chain, they understand it. When it comes to the investors, we're now just getting into that space as entrepreneurs. This is something that investors don't necessarily fully understand. And so it's very difficult for a lot of them. For the three of us right now, you are one of these investors, so maybe you understand completely. But for the three of us, it's been very difficult, I'm sure, when talking to investors, because it's not just about your product. You have manufacturing costs, you have distribution, you have an entire company that you have to build that has so many working pieces, way more than any web app or mobile app has ever had. And again, hardware is hard. Hardware is also a little nerve-wracking for certain investors to get into.
So I'm just going to go ahead. So yeah, I think you're not wrong, right? But you're not all the way right. And a part of the magic is picking the right investor. So you mentioned some of these older companies that have been hardware developers for a long time. Intel is one of those companies, right? So we understand it. There are other Sandal Road VCs that also understand hardware. So I think the first step is to actually find the right audience, right? Obviously, you're not going to go to I don't want to name any names, but you're not going to go to a venture fund that only invests in mobile. If you're pitching robotics or drones or something like that, you need to go to someone that understands. If they don't understand, then you're gonna spin your wheels teaching them about your business and then hoping that they get it. So instead of doing that, target someone that knows your business, and then you're talking to them. Then the conversation is on another level, right? It's like, how well do you understand the drone business or manufacturing, right? What are your contacts, right? How can you get a product built? Have you built a product before? It becomes things like that versus, well, how does this work? Or what is the revenue? Or what does it cost to get something like this off the ground? Which I'm sure is some of the questions that you guys were having in the early days prior to getting your funding. So pick the right investor.
Great. And I'll totally agree with you on Intel Capital. I mean, there's a few others out there that get it and understand it. And I think more and more investors now are starting to understand the costs that go with it, so I completely agree.
Well, Kyle, on that note, in terms of you guys have a fund, you have an accelerator, you see tons of different wearable companies or in that space. What is the future of wearables? What really, anything you can talk about this year, it's more than a pedometer on your arm. And whether is it closed or where do you see the trend going?
Yeah, so I could definitely disclose a lot of different things. I think that wearables is now going to be a part of our life as we go forward. And the future with it is it's going to become seamless as opposed to something that's big and bulky. So some of the devices that some people out here might have on feel a little heavy, feel a little new if they haven't been fully fleshed out. I think when we get down the line here in the next couple of years, even in the next 6 to 8 months, we're going to start to see more seamless integration of these technologies. So clothing, for instance. I know a number of companies who are working on sensor technology to be integrated throughout our fabrics. So being able to have the same interaction that we have on a watch, or something like the Fitbit or fitness trackers, fully integrated in our shirt. So we can get those same kind of data, same kind of analytics through our clothing. So I think the future for wearables right now is going to be something that's a lot more seamless than it is currently today.
Thanks. Marlon, you are, we have this word now, one of our partners, Christine was talking about earlier, the unicorn, right? And there's a unicorn startup that's it's the $1 billion one, and there's a unicorn founder. And I don't know if we describe venture capitalists as unicorns, but in terms of being a minority VC, you are a unicorn, you're a rare breed. And so it's a conversation I have with TD, it's like, who are the minority VCs and investors? What led you down this path?
what led me down this path? So let's see. Going all the way back to undergrad, I went to Northeastern in Boston, and I studied. I was originally an architecture major. Not sure why. I never drew anything before in my life. Got there and realized that wasn't going to work out. And one of my friends put me onto this thing called technology and business. And there was a major that incorporated both of those, management information systems. So I took a look and tried to see what it was about, and I got interested. As a kid, I had computers, I had video games, so I knew I liked technology, but wasn't sure what it was, and I had no idea what business was. But anyway, took the major, and then after college, I joined this .com consultancy called Breakaway Solutions, and that was really eye-opening because here I was, fresh out of college, and I was consulting to these companies that were just doing this. They had these amazing ideas, and they were building these amazing, we thought at the time, companies. And I just thought, this is super interesting, and I don't have to go and work at like IBM and do this boring 9 to 5. I could actually do stuff that, quote unquote, could change the world, and found that interesting. So then I got out of the consulting thing, and I went to a startup, and it was a kind of a boring startup, enterprise software, but still we were building what I thought was an interesting product and selling it to some really big organizations, and it gave me a thrill. But what I found during my 4 or 5 years in that company was that I got tired of working with the same product. Even though it was a cool product, I got tired of it. And so that told me something about myself. So I love technology. I love being part of in that creation circle. I love portions of the operation, but I want more variety. And so to me, that was venture capital. It was, I get to meet some really interesting and smart people every day that are doing some amazing things, and I get to help them build those amazing things, kind of like a coach on the sideline. And I don't have to stay with that same company 5 days a week. I get to go and visit 5 different companies that I'm working with, each day of the week. And so that's how it happened. The path to getting the job, that's a longer conversation, and probably not one for this panel.
Yeah. Well, on that note, well, thank you for that. Well, on that note, working with a lot of companies, if you could just say one piece of advice and say this is something your pet peeve. I read a post you wrote a picture one time. I'm not sure if that's it, but so y'all follow you. But pet peeve for all the entrepreneurs saying that, all right, if they can do this one thing and help them out so much, is it product, is it design, or is it the pitching, or is it just being more of the domain expertise in that space? What's your pet peeve as an investor?
So there's no silver bullet. So I'm not going to give you this one thing that you do. If you do it well, then you'll get funding. It doesn't exist. In terms of pet peeve, I don't like to work with entrepreneurs that aren't looking to optimize for the true value of the company for the long term. I'll give you an example. Recently, I was in heavy negotiations with a really smart team. They're building a product in the virtual reality space, and this was just before the whole Facebook Oculus thing happened. We started talking before that happened, and then that happened, and then they started getting a whole lot of interest from a lot of other people, a lot of other VCs, and then they were like, oh well, we were talking about this valuation, but now we think it's more around this valuation. And I'm thinking to myself, geez, you're two smart guys. I really like spending time with you, but you've got like 20 different things that you need to achieve in the next 2 years before you can actually command the valuation that you're asking for. And oh, by the way, if you miss some of those milestones when this round of funding runs out and you need to go raise some more money, you're not going to be able to raise it because you haven't yet actually done the work to command that valuation. And so, you know, we both kind of went our separate ways and agreed to come back for their next round if they made it. But the point is, if you think that you found the investor that's the right partner for you, then think about the things that are going to actually help the company to grow. What value can that investor add outside of the dollars? Is this someone who I respect enough that I'm willing to listen to or take their advice on board, not necessarily do everything that they suggest, but take it on board. You know, and there are a few other things, but you know, optimize for what's really important and think about growing a large company.
Great, thanks for that. And TD, patents, right? I'll be honest, before I met you, 2012? Yeah, wow. I don't think I've ever come across anybody directly working on a patent startup. You know, I know lawyers, I know, you know, other people specialize in patent laws, but never, right? Why now patents? And what has changed in the patent laws to where that you have the vision for EnovationNation that where it's going to impact everybody in this room?
I guess I'll start by telling you guys about the one piece of art that we have hanging on the wall in our office because we don't have any other art. And it says simply that we're not in the legal business, we are in the business of innovation. And so one of the things that we learned, or even that I learned as a fourth grader, is that the biggest barrier between having an idea and then having, you know, the opportunity to build it, to optimize it, as you explained, is access to capital. And as a fourth grader, I had no access to capital. I mean, who was I going to call? You know, I could have called you at Marlon and said, you know, hey, I have this fantastic idea that Procter & Gamble thought was pretty cool, so they took it. But, you know, at the time, we were probably playing, you know, Princess Leia and, you know, Luke Skywalker or something. Yeah. Totally a Star Wars junkie. And so one of the things that I learned early on is that there is a true currency when it comes to innovation. And that currency, as I said in my introduction, that currency is intellectual property ownership. In our business, we're kind of like the top of the funnel for everybody who's sitting to my right. So before they ever show up to a VC, before they actually ever have a product, before any of that, we see them first. So when we're talking about trends of what's happening in technology and what people are thinking forward, we see it first. I can tell you right now, 80% of our customers are in the hardware space, not in software. Sometimes in the Valley, we think it's all about software. It's not at all. Even when we talked about the future of wearables, I think that one of the panelists alluded to the fact that there's a movement into clothing and fiber and, you know, some of the other things in wearables. And we actually saw something come through our platform the other day that I was like, wow, if you guys make this happen, then I'm investing, and I don't even have the, you know, the billions of dollars to invest in this. But, you know, I'm saying all of that ultimately to say that the hindrance between having an idea, because we all have great ideas, and actually building those out is getting past those